Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm unbelievably happy to be here. It's nice to be around smiling faces that are sane. There's plenty of other groups we could be in that aren't, so I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to start, I hadn't planned on this, but I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself, particularly about the job, because day before yesterday, I was at an event, and this hasn't come up before, but a lady came up and she's talking to me, and she said, I really want to support you, but I'm listening to the things other people are saying, and I'm just really worried that you don't have any management experience. And it kind of took me by shock, so I said, okay, it's a little bit too long to explain, so I'll start my speech off with that. So just in case anybody else has believed a false narrative that I don't have any management experience, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the job, of what I do, because I think it's important that if we're going to talk about a resume of who's capable of truly leading and changing this state from the disaster that we have to know who that we're actually putting in there. And I firmly believe that if we took names, if we took parties off and we took names off and just threw our resumes in the hat, I honestly believe I'd win it 100% to 0. So, briefly about how the state's going to change, because I have to agree with Che. If one of the four gets up here and says something different than the other four about policies that we're going to do, or that how we're going to, everything is broken in the state, if they don't agree, I think I'll warn the other two coming up, don't say anything different than the rest of us, because I don't think you're in the right Republican group. As a Republican conservatives in California, everything in California is absolutely broken. It's not one thing we have to fix, it's the entire state from top to bottom. There is no longer a demographic in this state that isn't affected. Democrats know that their position in this state is indefensible. They have nothing to run on, which is why, what do they run on? What do they run against? Trump. Everything is President Trump. They were probably one of the greatest presidents in our history. And Democrats that are doing everything they can to prevent good things from happening where the rest of the country is benefiting and California is not. So I'm going to talk briefly about a couple of things just with me as your governor. But then at the end, I'm going to tell you why it should be me, why you should be endorsing me, why we should be getting behind me, and how I believe we're going to win. So, personally, I am not originally from California. I was born and raised in Utah. I came here when I was 11 to play in the Little League World Series in Santa Monica. And we stayed with a family there, and that family I was 11. So me and my friend stayed with a family. They had a 13-year-old boy and a 16-year-old daughter. And the daughter had a driver's license. And so she immersed us in everything that was Santa Monica. And I will tell you, as an 11-year-old kid coming from a small town of 1,000, I was in seventh heaven, being at the Santa Monica Pier, parks, crowds, all of that was just amazing to me. And I can tell you that my whole life up until I was 22 years old was nothing about baseball. Fun fact. If life was up to me, Che, I mean, we're all directed by God. God controls where we are. If it was up to me, you guys would be probably watching me get sworn into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. But obviously that was not what God wanted me in my life, so it ended up different. But at that time, everything was about baseball. I couldn't tell you one thing about that trip to Santa Monica that had to do with baseball. I know we lost, but I remember nothing. I can tell you what the weather was, I can tell you what people were wearing at the beach, I can tell you what an arcade was, I can tell you the video games in that arcade, but I don't know what we did in the baseball games. I went home, I told my parents we lost, and I was moving to California. My mother made me promise that I would wait till I was an adult. So after my baseball career was over, 22 years old, I packed everything that I had in a Ford Ranger and moved to California. I came to California for my California dream, because as a young kid, as a small kid in a small town from another state, California was the place that you had to go if you were going to make something better for your life. I came here when I was 22. I found my California beauty queen, Denise. 4 fantastic kids, we have 5 grandkids, and we have what we believe is a very, very, very blessed life. Now, work-wise. I found law enforcement in 1993. I put myself through a sheriff's academy and was hired the day after by the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. I've been there I'm in my 33rd year right now. I had a fantastic career of service. I was raised with great values, a great work ethic, and my dad and the people in that small town instilled in all of us that you take care of other people. You do things for other people. And I think I truly did find my calling in law enforcement in that everything I do is to make someone else's life better. It is extremely rewarding, and I am extremely grateful to not only have this career, but then be elected as a Riverside County Sheriff. I was elected in 2018, I was re-elected in 2022, and because of what I've done in the office of sheriff, California changed its laws when sheriffs are elected and moved it to the presidential cycle, which is off governor cycle. Throughout the history of California, it's in the Constitution that the sheriffs are elected the same year as the governor. But our California Democrats decided that they did not want someone like me in the office of sheriff because they couldn't control me. I set the tone in 2020 with the governor's mandates of locking down this state, and I was the first government official in the entire country to stand up and say, we're not doing that in Riverside County.
Yeah!
Because of that, I became the #1 target of Democrats in this state. How are we going to unelect a sheriff that we can't control? They came up with changing my election cycle. They changed my election cycle to the presidential cycle because Democrats in California come out to vote more in presidential cycles than governor cycles, and they assumed, or they thought, that that's how they could unelect me by bringing more Democrats to elect a liberal, anti-public safety, pro-criminal sheriff. So what that did is it moved my election to 2028. So I am currently the sheriff of Riverside County, and I will be, well, actually I'll only be until January when I have to resign after you elect me as your governor. My election is in 2028. So what that allowed, and I will tell you this and I can promise you this, I would not have run if I would have had to give up my seat as sheriff. You can't run for 2 elected offices, so I would not have said I'm not going to run for sheriff, I'm going to run for governor instead. This is them changing the rules, them being unethical, immoral, and trying to gain control of this state is what allowed me to run in this campaign. So a little bit about the sheriff's office. My sheriff's office is the 2nd largest in the state, the 4th largest in the country. I have 4,400 employees. I have 13 patrol stations that take care of 17 contract cities. So technically I'm the chief of police of 17 cities, in addition to the sheriff of Riverside County. So not only a board of supervisors, I have 17 city councils that I have to interact with for politics, budgets, law enforcement, and all of those things. I have 5 jails, roughly about 4,000 inmates on a daily basis. I'm responsible for 16 courthouses. I'm the coroner, the public administrator. I'm the government person, the interactive government person between 12 Indian nations. And my operating budget is just shy of $1.3 billion. As the sheriff of Riverside County, I have never finished anything other than in the black, and that's the first time in the history of Riverside County. I am extremely fiscally responsible, and I'm going to take that same message into Sacramento and absolutely destroy the waste, fraud, and abuse that is going on in our state capital. So very quickly about what California is going to look like with me as your governor. My platform is very, very simple. It's not something new, it's not something wazoo, it's what government is supposed to be. It's government priorities, and where government has its priorities, that's where it spends its money. The number one priority of any government is public safety. Whether it's United States and its military to keep us safe from foreign invaders, or local or state government keeping us safe from crime, and fire is lumped into that. Our fire department is lumped into public safety to keep us safe during natural disasters or preventing or afterward. So public safety is number one. For public safety, we will actually make crime a crime again in this state. Every single prison that Newsom closed, there's 5, he's about to close 2 more, I will reopen on day 1. If you are going to victimize us in California, you are going to suffer the consequence, and the consequence is jail and prison. That is a fact of a civilized society. Briefly on the homeless, because the homeless is a public safety issue. Your public safety officers are dealing with the homeless situation on a daily basis. We are the first responders that have to deal with them. And I'm going to tell you this, and Shay's already told you, but I'm going to reaffirm what he just said. The reason why we have this situation is because we have been played on by our emotions. Our emotions have been used against us, and homeless is with the word homeless. This has absolutely nothing to do with homes, and we will never ever fix it if we keep calling it homes and not address it for what it is, which is a drug and alcohol and or mental illness induced psychosis. As your governor, the billions of dollars that are given every single year to nonprofits and NGOs ends on day 1. Ends on day 1. A fraction of that money will be used for mental health treatment, drug and alcohol treatment, and here's the important thing, a combination of both. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to say it's a conspiracy theory, but I'm going to tell you that it's an awful big coincidence. That at the same time in 2014, when the state legalized drugs that caused this epidemic that we have, they also made a law that mental health and drug and alcohol treatment centers couldn't combine. So this is what happens currently. If one of my deputies, goes out and contacts a homeless person, and that homeless person is suffering from drug or alcohol addiction, we can get him into a facility that will treat him. When they, in the intake system, in the intake screen, they say, have you ever been treated for a mental illness? And if they say yes, they're kicked out the door by law. If I find someone that has a mental health crisis, and we get them into a facility, and the facility finds out that they're using or have been using drugs and alcohol, kicked out the door. Straight back to the streets. This is a homeless industrial complex that has been created by the state to launder our taxpayer money, knowing that it's coming in the back end, back into the election cycle to keep these people in office. And that ends with me as your governor. On the public safety side, with fire will be given the tools to actually prevent the Palisades.
Yes.
That was not caused by global warming. I'd like to say Newsom caused it, but he technically didn't. But his policies allowed that to happen. For 5 years, our insurance companies were telling him, if you don't change your policies, not allowing the fire department to create defensible space around homes and buildings and towns, you're going to lose entire towns. And he didn't care. In 2021, the fire in the north, the Dixie Fire in the north, we lost towns and cities up there. 5 years later, in the Palisades, we lose the entire Palisades. The policies that the progressive, liberal California legislature have created does not allow our fire department to create defensible space because our environmental rules and laws are absolutely 100% controlled and influenced by environmental activism. They believe that weeds and bugs and plants are more important than all of you. That ends with me as your governor. The number 2 role of government is infrastructure. Infrastructure is pretty much everything that we see. It's our roadways, our power grid, our electric grid, our waterways, everything. With me as your governor, we will absolutely build more freeways. We will absolutely widen our freeways. We will absolutely repair our freeways so you all can stop repairing your vehicles from driving on them. Our power grid, we will absolutely, I can promise you this, it may be more, but I can absolutely, I know for an absolute fact, I can promise you that your electric bill will be reduced by 50%. The CPUC, every single person on the CPUC will be replaced with people who actually care about you and care about our electric environment and our electric grid. We will move toward a nuclear power system in California. Until then, we will utilize every single thing imaginable to make sure we have electricity. We will utilize solar and wind, although we will not add any more to it. And we will use coal, natural gas, water. Do you guys know that the best, most environmental friendly, if you're talking about California, way to produce electricity is with water? We have dams in California that are set up for hydroelectric power that the state doesn't let produce power. That changes with me as your governor. We will absolutely take care of infrastructure. Our waterways. You all have to realize this. California has never, ever, ever had a drought. Ever. We have more water every single year in snow and rain than any state in the country, and 70% of it is purposely put into cement rivers and routed to the ocean. We have a government-imposed drought. That's why you think there's a drought, because they told you there was one. So they could ration your water, they could prevent building, they could prevent expansion, and they could raise your water rates. If the government controls our food and our water, they control the people. And that's what we have right now. With me as your governor, we will build many dams and reservoirs to hold surface water. We will provide farmers with 100% of the water that they need for their agriculture. And we will once again be a world leader in agriculture. We were at one point, and we will be again. The third is education. We have absolutely failed several generations of our kids. California, when I came to California, was the best education system in the country. And now we are near the worst because we have an indoctrination process in our school system instead of education. Our kids, less than 50% are at grade level in reading. Less than 50. And only 35% in math and science. With me as your governor, we will ensure that education is a priority. We will teach our kids to read and write. We will teach our kids to do math. We will teach our kids to be productive adults and productive members of society. And we will absolutely inject the trades into every single school district. As your governor, there will never again be another boy in your daughter's locker room. They will not participate against them in sports. And as grandparents and parents, you will not have to vaccinate your kids to get them into school. We will have an education system that parents choose where their kids go to school. And we will have a child education fund that follows the student, whether it's public school, whether it's private school, charter school, or home school. And if parents want their kids to go to a certain school, the schools want that, they better compete for their kids. And they better prove to the parents that they're going to educate their kids. That's how the system. The greatest issue that California has, though, is cost of living. Cost of living is controlled by it's not 100%. It's taxes, cost of gas, and most importantly, overregulation. We have to realize and understand that regulation is the biggest driver of the faults and the causes and the bad things in California. And this is what you have to realize and know, that when I take over as the governor, every single regulation in this state is going to be removed. Absolutely removed. We will not be punished in California just for living in California that no other state has. The regulations in this state are the rest of the country on steroids, and that ends with me as your governor. CEQA, the California Coastal Commission, CARB, all of those are not laws. They are regulatory boards and commissions with people on there appointed by the governor, and they are creating fees and rules that we have to abide by that are ruining our life. That is why businesses are leaving, and they get removed day one with me as your governor. We will become oil independent in this state. Oil independent in this state. You have to all realize we have been lied to for decades and decades and decades. California has more oil than any other place in the world. With heavy crude and sweet crude, we have it here in California. But yet we import 80% of the oil into this state.
That's nuts.
When you import oil into the state, there is absolutely zero benefit to California. It's actually worse for the environment because we're bringing it from the Middle East, other countries, and we have to ship it across the ocean in tankers. It's far worse for the environment. We will be oil independent, and the beautiful part about that is the money generated from oil completely funds state government. That means that by the time I leave, there will no longer be a California state income tax.
Yeah!
We will also do everything imaginable to prevent the assault on Prop 13. And depending on how big you all can make this economy with me as your governor, we will work on reducing or eliminating property tax.
Yes. That's clear. Just like
In the meantime, in the property tax, we will move to stop anyone from paying property tax if you're over the age of 65 or if you own your home. So now, California is going to be a state where all of you are going to leave and go visit your friends and families in other states, and you're no longer going to be embarrassed to say you're from California. That's what it's going to be. So now, why are you going to vote for me? We have a chance of a lifetime to take back California. Everyone has known that things were lining up for the last 5 years since COVID, going into this election with Newsom leaving. Everyone knew that a Republican is going to win this election. Everyone. It's ours to lose. We have to pick the right person to get behind. And we have to pick the person that's capable of winning a statewide election. Not the one that you like the most, not the one that you see the most on TV, the person that's capable of winning. And I will tell you, I'm the only one that's even won any elected office.
Yep.
And if you think winning an elected office is easy, you're absolutely wrong. I know there's people in here that have failed several times before they won. It is difficult. I was born 58 years ago, the year Ronald Reagan became our governor. Ironically, Reagan's 11th commandment is to never talk smack about another Republican.
Oh, man.
If you all pay any attention to anything, start from right now, if you haven't already, and realize that the Democrats never fight amongst themselves. They do everything they can to destroy other Republicans. Republicans, on the other hand, do everything they can to destroy other Republicans. I have been telling you all this since 2020, the first time that I was ever asked to speak at these conventions. And I told you, if we don't get it together, we're not going to win in statewide elections. We came into this election and we were like, holy moly, we may have 2 Republicans going into the general election winning. 2 Republicans at the top of the ticket. For the last 4 months, I've been the #1 person in the polls in 11 out of 13 polls. And then what happened? I get attacked by another Republican. Not attacking Democrats, by another Republican. That's why we're going to fail. That's why we're going to fail. And I'm going to address, I have 5 minutes left to address 3 just outright lie falsehoods. Unapologetically pro-life. I have never been anything but pro-life. I am unapologetically pro-Second Amendment, and I have never been anything but. I'm unapologetically 100% against amnesty for people in this country illegally, and I have never been anything other than that. As much as I love Leo, and as much as I love Che, and the things that they say and the things that they are fighting for, we have to be realistic and know that they, unfortunately, at least at this time, don't have a chance to win this election in a statewide election. I don't think they have the name recognition. We only have 70 days before the ballots get out. 70 days before you get your ballot. This is going to be about rallying behind the right candidate who can win in a statewide election. Winning in November is going to require me to have all of your vote. It's going to require me to have the independent vote, and I already have the endorsement of the American Independent Party. And after the ballot, I need a minimum of 15% Democrat vote. That 15% Democrat vote will cross party lines. That's the key. They are going to have to cross party lines and vote for a Republican. They will cross party lines to vote for a sheriff to be safe in this state. As true as this sounds, it's factual. My life is about facts. 32 years of my life is about facts. That's what law enforcement is. It's truth, facts, integrity, and leadership. Democrats are not going to cross party lines in California. Some of them are crazy with Trump derangement syndrome. They are not going to vote for a Fox News host. As sorry as Steve is, sorry to tell you that, Steve, I think you know that, and that's why you're attacking me. It has to stop, because here's the reality.
We need the 2 Republicans.
I have 3 minutes left, so I have to go backwards once. This absolute garbage that I cited with an anti-law enforcement terrorist group has to absolutely end. In 2020, I was the absolute first law enforcement officer leader in the entire country to stand up to BLM and kick them out of our city. During that time, there were 1,200 cops and 1,000 or 10,000 protesters. I not only led those cops in unbelievable professionalism in how they handled that 8 hours of protest, but I also led the protest to make sure that it didn't turn riotous. And in the end, when it did turn riotous and we canceled it and we told them they had to leave, there were 3 organizers of that event from that community that thanked me for everything that we did for them and asked us if we would pray for the safety of our deputies, because we had already arranged what was going to happen next, and they knew it. We prayed, they prayed for the safety of my deputies. That night, we had no reported injuries from protesters, no injuries from deputies, no businesses looted, no fires, no damage, nothing.
Yeah!
And they have never come back. I will never, ever not pray for anything or anyone. And the bottom line, you have to decide whether you're going to believe me, but let me tell you this. Just because You say I'm not telling the truth, doesn't change the truth. We have a fantastic opportunity to bring this state back to sanity. I am going to be a governor that actually makes California, works to make your lives better, instead of you working to make California government bigger. So thank you all very much for your support.